Admiral Kang Deho stood on the bridge of his ship watching the stars through the big window. He had been fighting in space for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The message from the Velkan Empire was clear and simple: surrender or die. The Velkans ruled the galaxy. Everyone knew this. Their ships were bigger than cities. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. For 3,000 years, no one had been strong enough to fight them and win. Deho looked at the message again. The words were written in perfect human language, but they came from aliens who had never cared to learn about humans before. This made the message even more scary. "Captain Lee Ji-won," Deho called to his second-in-command. "Come here and read this." Ji-won walked over quickly. She was young but very smart. Deho trusted her more than anyone else on his ship. She read the message and her face became very serious. "They want us to give up everything," she said quietly. "Our ships, our colonies, our freedom. And we only have 3 days to decide." "What do you think?" Deho asked. Ji-won looked out at the stars. "I think they made a big mistake, sir." Far away on the Velkan homeworld, Supreme Fleet Commander Thorax was laughing. He was a huge creature with skin like crystal and eyes that glowed blue. His body was covered in natural armor that could stop bullets. Like all Velkans, he could shoot energy from his hands. "Humans," he said to his officers. "Such a funny little species. They think they can build an empire like ours." His officers laughed too. They had heard stories about humans. Small, weak creatures with no natural weapons. No energy powers, no crystal skin for protection. How could such weak beings ever challenge the mighty Velkan Empire? "How many ships do they have?" Thorax asked. "Our spies report about 200 ships, Commander," said one officer. "Very small compared to our 50,000. Thorax laughed even louder. 200. I have more ships in my personal guard. This will not even be worth my time," he thought. For a moment. "Send Admiral Kethis with 2,000 ships. That should be more than enough to destroy every human in the galaxy. Make sure he brings back some of their technology. I heard they make interesting tools." The officer looked worried. "Should we not send more ships, Commander? Just to be safe?" Thorax's eyes grew angry. "Are you saying I do not know how to fight a war? 2,000 ships could destroy 100 species like the humans. Do not question me again." Meanwhile, on the human capital world of New Seoul, President Kim Jae-man was having the most important meeting of his life. The room was full of military, officers, scientists, and government leaders. Everyone looked scared except for one man. Dr. Park Hyun-woo sat quietly in the corner. He was a thin man with gray hair and calm eyes. While everyone else talked loudly about their fears, he just listened and waited. "We cannot fight them," said General Song Woo-bin. "Our biggest ships are like toys compared to theirs. Our weapons cannot even scratch their shields. We should surrender now and maybe they will let some of us live." "No," said Admiral Kim Soo-min. "We should run. Take our ships and find new planets far away. Maybe they will not follow us." "They will follow us," said Commander Yoon Mirai. She was the head of Human Intelligence Services. "The Velkans do not forgive. They do not forget. If we run today, they will hunt us forever." President Kim looked around the room. "Dr. Park, you have been very quiet. What do you think we should do?" Dr. Park stood up slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Mr. President, I think we should tell the Velkans exactly what they want to hear." The room became silent. Everyone stared at the old scientist. "You want us to surrender?" asked General Song. "No," Dr. Park said with a small smile. "I want us to tell them we surrender, but I do not want us to actually surrender." "I do not understand," said President Kim. Dr. Park walked to the center of the room. "For 50 years, I have been working on a special project. We call it Project Sunrise. Today, I can tell you that Project Sunrise is ready." "What is Project Sunrise?" asked the president. "The end of the Velkan Empire," Dr. Park said simply. Everyone started talking at once. Dr. Park raised his hand for silence. "The Velkans think they know everything about us. They think we are weak because our ships are smaller. They think we are stupid because we do not have energy powers. But they are wrong about the most important thing. What thing? Asked Commander Yoon. They think we fight like them. One ship against another ship. One fleet against another fleet. But we do not fight like that. We fight like humans. Captain Lee Jiwan was still on Admiral Daeho's ship when the orders came. They were to pretend to be scared. They were to let the Velkans think they were weak and confused. This feels wrong, she told Daeho. Running away when the enemy comes. Sometimes, the best way to win a fight is to let your enemy think he has already won, Daeho replied. Dr. Park knows what he is doing. Do you really trust him? Jiwan asked. Daeho looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the most powerful empire in the galaxy was getting ready to destroy humanity. But for the first time in weeks, he felt hope. Jiwan, I have known Dr. Park for 30 years. He has never failed at anything he tried to do. If he says he can end the Velkan Empire, then I believe him. The next day, human colonies on the edge of space received new orders. They were to act scared. They were to send messages asking for help. Some of them were even told to let Velkan scout ships attack them without fighting back. It was hard for the colonists to follow these orders. Humans did not like to run from fights, but they trusted their leaders. They believed there was a plan. On the Velkan homeworld, the reports made Commander Thorax very happy. Look at this, he told his officers. The humans are already running away. Some of their colonies are begging us not to hurt them. This will be even easier than I thought. But not everyone was happy with the plan. Some Velkan officers thought it was strange that humans had built so many colonies so quickly, only to give up without a real fight. Something feels wrong about this, said Admiral Vexus. Humans have been expanding very fast for the last 50 years. Species do not usually do that unless they are preparing for something big. Thorax was angry. Are you afraid of humans, Vexus? Maybe you should stay home, while real warriors go to fight. Vexus said nothing more, but he was still worried. He had studied many wars, and he knew that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who appeared to be weak. As the Velkan fleet prepared to leave, Dr. Park was making final preparations for Project Sunrise. In secret bases across human space, thousands of people were getting ready for the most important day in human history. The message to the Velkans was simple. We surrender. Please do not hurt us. We will give you whatever you want. But the real message was being sent through channels the Velkans could not see or hear. It was going to every human ship, every human colony, every human soldier in the galaxy. The message was even simpler. Get ready. Dr. Park Hyun-woo walked through the secret laboratory deep under New Seoul. The hallways were full of scientists and engineers working day and night. They had been working on Project Sunrise for 50 years, and today it would finally be tested against the strongest empire in the galaxy. Dr. Park, called researcher Choi Sung-ho, the quantum transmitters are ready. All networks are online and working perfectly. Park nodded and smiled. Good. What about the hidden construction sites? Engineer Nam Soo-young looked up from her computer. All 700 sites report ready, sir. The ships are fueled and armed. The crews are waiting for orders. 700 sites? Asked a young scientist who was new to the project. I thought we only had 50 construction sites. Park looked at the young man kindly. That is what most people think. Even most people working on this project do not know the full truth. We built 50 sites that everyone could see. We built 700 sites that no one could see. The young scientist's eyes grew wide. How many ships do we really have? More than enough, Park said simply. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Jiwan was studying the intelligence reports about Velkan military tactics. She had read everything humans knew about how the Velkans fought their wars. The more she read, the more confident she felt. Admiral Daeho, she said, walking into his office. I think I understand why Dr. Park is so sure we can win. Tell me, Daeho said. Jiwan put a map on his desk. It showed how Velkan fleets usually fought battles. Look at this pattern. Every time the Velkans fight, they do the same thing. The biggest ship gives orders to smaller ships. Those ships give orders to even smaller ships. It takes time for orders to travel from the commander to every ship in the fleet. That is normal, Deho said. Most militaries work that way. But not us, Jiwan said excitedly. Our ships do not work that way anymore. Every human ship can talk to every other human ship instantly. No delays. No waiting for orders from commanders. If one ship sees an opportunity, every ship knows about it immediately. Deho began to understand. So while their commanders are still giving orders, our ships are already moving. Exactly. And there is more. Look at this. Jiwan showed him another report. Velkan communication systems use faster than light signals, but even those signals take time to travel. When they send a message across their empire, it takes several minutes to arrive. When we send a message across human space, it arrives instantly. How is that possible? Deho asked. Quantum entanglement, Jiwan explained. Dr. Park's team found a way to connect particles across any distance. When something happens to one particle, the connected particle changes immediately no matter how far away it is. Every human ship has thousands of these connected particles. Deho stared at the reports. This means every human ship is connected to every other human ship in the galaxy at the same time. Yes, sir. We do not fight as individual ships. We fight as one giant organism with thousands of parts. In the Velkan fleet, Admiral Kethis was preparing for what he thought would be an easy victory. His 2,000 ships were some of the most powerful war machines ever built. Each one could destroy a human city with a single shot. How long until we reach human space? He asked his officers. 6 hours, Admiral, came the reply. Our scouts report that human ships are scattered and confused. Some are trying to run away. Others are hiding behind their planets. Kethis laughed. Perfect. We will destroy the ones that run first. Then we will take our time with the others. I want the humans to know they cannot escape Velkan justice. But the Velkan scouts were not seeing the real picture. Commander Yoon Mirai was controlling what they saw very carefully. Her intelligence teams had spent years learning how to fool Velkan sensors. Report, she said to her team. The Velkans see exactly what we want them to see, said Intelligence Officer Baek Jin-young. Their scouts detect 200 human ships scattered across 12 systems. They have no idea about our real fleet. What about their main force? Yoon asked. Admiral Kethis has 2,000 ships in a standard Velkan battle formation. They are moving slowly and confidently. They think this will be an easy fight. Yoon smiled. Good. The easier they think it will be, the bigger surprise they will get. Across human space, something amazing was happening. In asteroid fields where no one would think to look, huge ships were powering up their engines. On dark moons far from any sun, construction sites that had been hidden for decades were opening their doors. In empty space between star systems, ships that looked like floating rocks were revealing their true shapes. Engineer Nam Soo-young was watching it all happen from the command center. Dr. Park, it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Every ship is moving exactly where it needs to be. No confusion, no delays, no mistakes. That is the power of perfect communication, Park replied. When everyone knows everything instantly, there is no need for confusion. How did you know this would work? Asked Choi Sung-ho. Park thought for a moment. I studied how humans work best. We are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We do not have natural weapons or armor. But we have something no other species has. What is that? Sung-ho asked. We can work together better than anyone else. Put 100 different aliens in a room, and they will argue about who should be the leader. Put 100 humans in the same room, and they will figure out how to solve problems together. Meanwhile, the Velkan Empire was making plans for after their easy victory. Commander Thorax was already deciding which human technologies he wanted to steal, and which human planets would become slave worlds. Make sure Admiral Kethis brings back some human scientists, he told his officers. I heard they make interesting computers. We can use those scientists to build better computers for us. What about the human soldiers? Asked an officer. Kill most of them. Keep a few as examples to scare other species who might think about rebelling against us. None of the Velkans. Noticed that their communication networks were being watched. Human intelligence teams had been studying Velkan technology for 50 years. They knew how every Velkan system worked. More importantly, they knew how to stop those systems from working. Dr. Park received a message from diplomat Han Yunji, who was working deep in Velkan space. All quantum jammers are in position and ready. We can cut their communications whenever you give the order. Excellent, Park replied. Remember, timing is everything. We must wait until their main fleet is committed to the attack. If they can retreat and call for help, we lose our advantage. Captain Li Jiwan was now on a different ship, one of the secret vessels that had been hidden for decades. It was smaller than a Velkan battleship, but it was faster and more advanced than anything the Velkans had ever seen. This ship feels alive, she told her crew. I can sense what every other ship in the fleet is thinking and planning. Her pilot, Lieutenant Oh Dae-young, nodded. It is strange at first, but you get used to it. It is like being part of something much bigger than yourself. The ship's weapons officer, Sergeant Kim Min-ho, was checking his systems. Captain, our weapons are not as powerful as Velkan energy cannons. Are you sure we can hurt their ships? Jiwan smiled. Sergeant, we are not going to fight them the way they expect. We are not going to line up our ships and shoot at each other until one side wins. We are going to fight them the human way. What is the human way? Min-ho asked. Teamwork. As the Velkan fleet got closer to human space, Admiral Kethis was feeling very confident. His scouts continued to report that human ships were weak and disorganized. Some human colonies had even sent messages begging the Velkans not to attack them. This is almost too easy, Kethis told his second-in-command. I was hoping for at least a little challenge. But in the human command center, Dr. Park was watching displays that showed the real situation. Thousands of human ships were moving into perfect position. Every single movement was coordinated with every other movement. It was like watching a dance performed by thousands of dancers who all knew exactly what everyone else was going to do. It is time, Park said quietly. The message went out instantly to every human ship, every human base, and every human agent in the galaxy. After 50 years of preparation, Project Sunrise was about to begin. Admiral Kang Dae-ho received the message on his ship and felt his heart beating faster. In a few hours, humanity would either be free or extinct. There would be no second chances. All crews to battle stations, he announced. Today we find out if humans deserve to exist among the stars. Admiral Kethis felt very pleased as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory. 2,000 of the most powerful warships ever built appeared in space like deadly metal stars. Each ship was bigger than a human city and carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. Scan for human ships, he ordered his officers. Sir, we detect 150 human vessels scattered across this system. They appear to be trying to form some kind of defensive line, but their formation is very poor. Kethis laughed. Even fewer ships than our scouts reported. This will be over in minutes. But something was wrong. His science officer looked confused as he studied his instruments. Admiral, I am getting strange readings from the asteroid fields and the moons around the gas giant. What kind of readings? Kethis asked. Energy signatures, sir. But they do not match any known human technology. Before Kethis could respond, space around his fleet exploded into light and motion. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with human ships. Asteroids split apart to reveal hidden battleships. Moons opened like flowers to show massive construction facilities. Even space dust seemed to come alive as camouflaged vessels activated their engines. How many ships? Kethis shouted. His officers were frantically checking their instruments. Sir, we count 3,000, no, 4,000, the numbers keep rising. Captain Li Jiwan watched from her command ship as the trap closed around the Velkan fleet. Every human ship moved with perfect coordination. Not one vessel was out of position. Not one captain was confused about what to do. All ships, this is Captain Li, she broadcast on the quantum network. Execute pattern Sunrise Alpha. Instantly, every human ship in the system began moving in a complex dance that no individual captain could have planned. Small fighters moved to attack positions while larger ships provided cover. Support vessels moved to exactly the right spots to help damaged ships. Everything happened at the same time, as if the entire human fleet was controlled by one massive brain. Admiral Kethis had never seen anything like it. They are moving like they can read each other's minds. His weapons officer reported, "Sir, they are targeting our communication arrays and shield generators. They know exactly where our weak spots are." "How is that possible?" Kethis demanded. The first wave of human attacks hit the Velkin fleet. The humans did not try to destroy the massive Velkin ships directly. Instead, they targeted specific systems with surgical precision. Communication dishes were destroyed. Shield generators were overloaded. Engine systems were damaged just enough to slow the ships down. "They are not trying to kill us," observed the Velkin science officer. "They are trying to disable us." "Then, they are fools," Kethis snarled. "All ships return fire. Show them the power of Velkin weapons." The Velkin fleet opened fire with their massive energy cannons. Beams of pure destruction lanced out toward the human ships. Any one of those beams could vaporize a human vessel completely, but the beams hit nothing but empty space. Every human ship had moved at exactly the right moment to avoid the attacks. It was as if they had known exactly when and where the Velkins would fire before the Velkins had even decided to fire. Lieutenant Odayung, piloting Captain Lee's ship, was amazed by what she was experiencing. Through the quantum network, she could sense the intentions of every Velkin ship. When a Velkin gunner prepared to fire, she knew about it instantly and could move out of the way. "This is incredible," she said to Captain Lee. "I can feel what they are going to do before they do it." "That is the power of perfect information," Lee replied. "When we know everything instantly, we can react faster than they can think." The battle was unlike anything ever seen in galactic history. The Velkins had superior weapons and stronger ships, but they were fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Human fighters swarmed around Velkin battleships like angry bees, always staying just out of reach of the massive weapons. Admiral Kethis was growing desperate. "Focus all fire on the largest human ship. If we can destroy their flagship, maybe their coordination will break down." But there was no flagship. Every human ship was equally important. Every human captain could command the entire fleet if needed. When the Velkins concentrated their fire on one area, the human ships in that area simply moved while other ships took over their duties. Meanwhile, Commander Yoon Mirai was watching the battle from her intelligence center. She could see that some Velkin ships were trying to retreat and call for help. "Activate the communication jammers," she ordered. Across the galaxy, hidden human devices began broadcasting quantum interference patterns. The Velkin faster-than-light communication system, which had connected their empire for thousands of years, suddenly went silent. On the Velkin homeworld, Commander Thorax was trying to contact Admiral Kethis to find out how the battle was going. But his communication officers could not reach the fleet. "What is wrong with our systems?" Thorax demanded. "Unknown, sir. All our communication networks are experiencing massive interference. We cannot contact any of our fleets anywhere in the galaxy." For the first time in his life, Thorax felt afraid. An empire that could not communicate was not really an empire at all. Back at the battle, Admiral Kethis was discovering the same thing. "I cannot contact home base. I cannot contact our other fleets. We are completely alone." His science officer had more bad news. "Sir, we are detecting quantum interference patterns throughout the galaxy. Someone has jammed our entire communication network." "The humans did this?" Kethis asked in amazement. "It appears so, sir. This level of coordination would require technology we did not know they possessed." The battle continued, but now it was clear who was winning. Human ships moved like parts of a single organism. They shared information instantly. When one ship was damaged, others immediately moved to help. When a new opportunity appeared, every ship that could take advantage of it moved at the same time. The Velkins fought like traditional warriors. Each ship captain made his own decisions. Orders had to travel from the admiral to individual ships, taking precious time. Even worse, many of their ships were now damaged and could not receive orders at all. Dr. Park Hyunwoo was watching the battle from his command center on New Seoul. After 50 years of planning and preparation, Project Sunrise was working exactly as he had hoped. "Dr. Park," said researcher Choi Sung-ho, "the Velkin fleet is trying to retreat. Let them try. Park replied calmly. But make sure they understand something first. He opened a communication channel to Admiral Kethis. It was Mina, the first time the two commanders had spoken directly. Admiral Kethis, this is Dr. Park Hyunwoo of the Human Defense Force. Kethis was surprised to hear a calm, elderly voice instead of a military commander. You are not a soldier. No, Admiral. I am a scientist. I study how things work and how to make them work better. For 50 years, I have been studying your empire. What do you want? Kethis demanded. I want you to understand something. This battle is not about human ships versus Velkan ships. This battle is about two different ways of thinking. You believe that power comes from having bigger weapons and stronger armor. We believe that power comes from working together. Around them, the battle was winding down. Most of the Velkan ships were disabled or surrendering. The few ships that were still fighting were badly outnumbered and cut off from each other. Your technology is superior, Kethis admitted. But how did you hide so many ships from our scouts? We did not hide them, Park explained. We built them in places where you would never think to look. We built them slowly and carefully over 50 years. Most importantly, we built them to work together instead of fighting alone. Sergeant Kim Minho, the weapons officer on Captain Lee's ship, was amazed by what he had witnessed. Captain, we did not win because we had better weapons. We won because we fought as one unit. Captain Lee nodded. That is the human way, Sergeant. We are stronger together than we are apart. The last Velkan ship stopped fighting and sent a surrender signal. In less than 6 hours, a fleet that had seemed invincible had been completely defeated by an enemy they had thought was weak and primitive. But Admiral Kethis had one final surprise waiting for the humans. Dr. Park, he said over the communication channel, you have won this battle, but you have not won the war. When our homeworld realizes what has happened here, they will send 100,000 ships to destroy you. Dr. Park's voice remained calm. Admiral, I think you should try to contact your homeworld. Kethis ordered his communication officers to send a message to Velkan High Command, but the only response was silence. Our communication network is still jammed, his officer reported. That is not entirely accurate, Dr. Park said. Your communication network is not jammed. Your communication network no longer exists. Before Kethis could ask what that meant, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. The Velkan Empire, the greatest military power in galactic history, was collapsing everywhere at once, and it had all happened in a single day. Across the galaxy, the Velkan Empire was dying. On the industrial world of Kepler-7, Velkan Governor Malthus was trying to understand why his communication systems had stopped working. He had been in the middle of demanding tribute from the local population when every screen in his office went dark. Fix this immediately, he ordered his technicians, but the technicians could not fix it because the problem was not on their world. The entire galactic communication network that had held the Velkan Empire together for thousands of years had been destroyed in a matter of hours. While Governor Malthus was shouting at his staff, something else was happening on Kepler-7. Intelligence. Officer Baek Jin-hyung, who had been working undercover as a maintenance worker for 2 years, was sending a very different kind of message. Jin-hyung used a small quantum transmitter hidden in his toolkit to contact human agents on dozens of other worlds. Phase 2 is active, he reported. Beginning liberation operations now. Within minutes, similar messages were being sent from human agents throughout Velkan space. Some agents had been working undercover for years. Others had been living normal lives until this moment, when they received the signal to begin their real mission. The enslaved populations that had been oppressed by the Velkans for centuries began to receive a very simple message. The Velkans cannot call for help. Their fleets cannot coordinate. If you want to be free, now is the time to act. On Kepler-7, the local population had been waiting for this moment for 50 years. They surrounded the governor's palace and demanded that Governor Malthus surrender immediately. This is impossible, Malthus said to his guards. How do they know about our communication problems? How are they organizing so quickly? His head of security had a terrible answer. Sir, it appears that many of the maintenance workers and servants in the palace are actually human agents. They have been watching us and planning this rebellion for years. Similar scenes were happening on thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The Velkan Empire had been so large and powerful that they had never worried about security. They had never imagined that humans would spend decades placing agents throughout their territory. Commander Yoon Mireille was coordinating the intelligence operations from her base on New Sol. Reports were coming in faster than her team could process them. "Status report," she called to her officers. "Ma'am, we have confirmation of successful operations on over 2,000 worlds," reported Intelligence Officer Han Yoonji. "Local populations are rising up everywhere. Most Velkan governors are surrendering without a fight." "What about worlds where the governors are trying to fight back?" Yoon asked. "Human agents are providing tactical support to resistance fighters. The Velkans cannot coordinate their defenses because they cannot communicate with each other. Each world is fighting alone." Meanwhile, Admiral Kang Daeho was leading a human fleet deeper into Velkan territory. But he was not conquering planets. Instead, his ships were providing support to liberation movements and preventing local warlords from taking advantage of the chaos. "Admiral," reported Captain Huang Jisoo from one of his escort ships, "we are receiving distress calls from 17 different systems. Some are from Velkan officials asking for protection. Others are from liberation groups asking for help." "What are your orders?" asked his second-in-command. Daeho thought carefully. "We help everyone who needs help. We protect civilians from violence. We do not take sides in local disputes. Our job is to prevent chaos, not to create more of it." This was not how most galactic wars worked. Usually, when one empire conquered another, the winners would steal resources and enslave populations. But the humans were doing something different. On the former Velkan world of Altair 3, diplomat Han Yoonji was meeting with local leaders who had just overthrown their Velkan governor. "What do you want from us?" asked the leader of the local resistance. "Nothing," Han Yoonji replied simply. The alien leader looked confused. "Nothing? But you helped us win our freedom. Surely you want something in return." "We want you to be free," Han Yoonji explained. "Free people make better neighbors than slaves. Free people build better societies than prisoners. When everyone in the galaxy is free, everyone benefits." Back on the Velkan homeworld, Supreme Fleet Commander Thorax was beginning to understand how completely he had misjudged humanity. Reports were arriving by courier ship from across the Empire, all bringing the same message. The Velkan Empire no longer existed. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked his remaining officers. "All of them, sir. Every world that was not directly controlled by Velkan military forces has declared independence. Even some worlds with Velkan populations have joined the rebellion." Thorax could not believe what he was hearing. "What about our fleets? Surely our military commanders can restore order." "Sir, our fleet commanders cannot communicate with each other or with us. Each fleet is operating alone without orders or coordination. Some are trying to maintain order in their local regions. Others are retreating to defensible positions. A few have surrendered to human forces." For the first time in his life, Thorax realized that the Velkan Empire had been built on a foundation of fear and communication. Without the ability to coordinate their forces and threaten their enemies, they were just another species struggling to survive. Captain Lee Jiwon was witnessing the end of an era as her fleet approached the Velkan home system. She had expected to fight a desperate battle against the Empire's most powerful defenses. Instead, she found Velkan ships surrendering as soon as they detected human vessels. "This is Admiral Vexus of the Velkan Home Guard," came a transmission from the largest Velkan ship. "We request permission to surrender." Lee remembered that name. Admiral Vexus was one of the few Velkan commanders who had questioned whether attacking humanity was a good idea. "Permission granted, Admiral," she replied. "Please prepare your ships for inspection." "Captain Lee," Admiral Vexus said, "I must ask you something. How did you do this? How did you defeat our entire empire in one day?" Lee thought about how to explain it. "Admiral, your empire was like a giant tree with very deep roots but only one trunk. When we cut the trunk, the whole tree fell down. I do not understand. You built your empire around the idea that orders come from the top and flow down to everyone else. When we cut your communication systems, no one could receive orders. Without orders, your people did not know what to do. Admiral Vexus was quiet for a moment. And humans work differently? Yes. Every human can make decisions and share information with every other human instantly. If you cut our communication to one ship, the other ships continue working perfectly. If you capture our leaders, new leaders take their place immediately. The conversation was interrupted by a message from the surface of the Velkan homeworld. Supreme Fleet Commander Thorax was requesting a meeting with human commanders. Dr. Park Hyunwoo agreed to meet with Thorax in person. It would be the first time a human had set foot on the Velkan homeworld. The meeting took place in what had been Thorax's command center. The proud Velkan leader looked much smaller and older than he had just one day before. Dr. Park, Thorax said, I have been a military commander for 200 years. I have conquered dozens of species and hundreds of worlds, but I have never seen anything like what you did to my empire. What we did was very simple, Park replied. We gave people a choice. They could continue to live under Velkan rule or they could be free. Most chose freedom. But how did you coordinate so many operations across such a vast area? Park smiled. The same way we coordinated our military operations. Perfect communication and shared decision-making. When every human agent knew what every other agent was doing, we could work together perfectly. Thorax shook his massive head. I thought power came from having the biggest weapons and the most ships. Power comes from having people who want to work with you instead of people who are forced to work for you, Park explained. Your subjects obeyed you because they were afraid. Our allies work with us because they choose to. The meeting was interrupted by Captain Lee Ji-won, who brought news that would change everything. Dr. Park, she said, we are receiving reports from across the galaxy. The collapse of Velkan authority has created power vacuums in thousands of systems. Some regions are descending into chaos. Pirates and warlords are trying to claim Velkan territory for themselves. Dr. Park nodded gravely. Then our real work is just beginning. Destroying an empire is easy. Building something better is much harder. Thorax looked up with surprise. You are going to help restore order? We are going to help people create their own order, Park corrected. But we will not let chaos and violence fill the void left by your empire. The galaxy deserves better than that. As reports continued to arrive, it became clear that the fall of the Velkan Empire was both humanity's greatest victory and their greatest challenge. They had proven that cooperation could defeat domination. Now they had to prove that freedom could be better than slavery. The real test of humanity was just beginning. 1 year after the fall of the Velkan Empire, President Kim Jae-in stood before the first Galactic Council meeting ever held. The great hall on the neutral world of Haven Station was filled with representatives from over 3,000 species. Some had been slaves under Velkan rule. Others had been allies. A few, like the Velkans themselves, had been rulers. Friends, President Kim began, his voice being translated into thousands of languages simultaneously. 1 year ago, we changed the galaxy forever. Today we must decide what kind of galaxy we want to build together. In the audience, former Supreme Fleet Commander Thorax listened carefully. He was no longer a commander of anything. The Velkan military had been dissolved after the Empire's collapse. But he had been chosen by his people to represent them at this historic meeting. Next to him sat Admiral Kang Dae-ho, who had become humanity's first ambassador to the new Galactic Cooperative. The military man had discovered that building peace was much more difficult than winning wars. The year since our liberation has not been easy, President Kim continued. We have faced challenges none of us expected. Pirates trying to claim empty territory, refugees fleeing from conflict zones, species that had been enemies for centuries trying to learn how to live in peace. Dr. Park Hyunwoo watched from his seat in the scientific advisory section. The quantum communication network that had made humanity's victory possible was now being shared with every species that wanted it. Some had learned to use it quickly. Others were still struggling with the concept of perfect information sharing. But we have also seen miracles, President Kim said. Former enemies working together to help disaster victims. Species that had never spoken to each other becoming trading partners. young people from different worlds learning together and becoming friends. Captain Li Ji-wan, now the commander of the Integrated Galactic Defense Force, was proud of what her mixed-species crews had accomplished. Human ships worked alongside former Vulcan vessels and fighters from dozens of other species. It had not been easy at first, but the quantum communication network had helped different species learn to trust each other. The biggest challenge had been dealing with the millions of Vulcan soldiers and officials who had lost everything when their empire collapsed. Many had expected the humans to treat them the way the Vulcans had treated conquered peoples, with imprisonment, slavery, or death. Instead, humans had offered them something no one expected: forgiveness and a chance to start over. Former Admiral Vexus, who now worked as a teacher at the new Galactic Defense Academy, stood up to address the council. "I want to speak for my people," he said. "The Vulcans ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We believed that might made right. We believed that the strong should rule the weak. We were wrong." The hall was very quiet. Many species had suffered under Vulcan rule for centuries. "When the humans defeated us," Vexus continued, "we expected revenge. We expected them to treat us the way we had treated others. Instead, they offered us something we had never learned to offer: mercy." He looked around the hall at representatives from species his people had once oppressed. "We cannot undo the harm we caused. We cannot bring back the lives we took or repair the cultures we destroyed. But we can promise that we will spend the rest of our existence trying to be worthy of the forgiveness we have been given." Engineer Nam Soo-young, who had helped design the quantum communication system, was now leading a team of scientists from 50 different species. They were working on the next phase of galactic cooperation, a shared knowledge network that would allow all species to learn from each other instantly. "The quantum communication network changed how we fight wars," she explained to a group of young scientists. "But the knowledge network will change how we solve problems. When a scientist on one world discovers something important, every scientist in the galaxy will know about it immediately." One of her students, a young Vulcan named Kythos, asked, "But what if someone uses this knowledge to create weapons?" Nam Soo-young smiled. "That is a good question. The answer is that the network only shares knowledge that helps people. Knowledge that harms people cannot be transmitted through the system." "How does the network know the difference?" asked another student. "Because the network is not just a machine. It is connected to living minds from all our species. When someone tries to share harmful knowledge, those minds recognize it and reject it." Meanwhile, Commander Yun Mai-rai was working on a very different problem. The fall of the Vulcan Empire had created opportunities for criminal organizations and pirates. Her new Galactic Intelligence Service was working with law enforcement from hundreds of worlds to maintain order without oppression. "The key is information sharing," she explained to a meeting of planetary security chiefs. "When criminals cannot hide on one world and strike at another, their power is greatly reduced." Intelligence Officer Baek Jin-hyung, who had spent years working undercover during the Resistance, was now training agents from other species. But these agents were not spies working against their own people. They were protectors working to keep the peace. The old way of intelligence work was about secrets and lies, he told his students. The new way is about sharing information to prevent problems before they start. The most difficult challenge had been helping the billions of refugees and displaced persons created by the empire's collapse. Diplomat Han Yunji was coordinating relief efforts across the galaxy. "Every species has something to offer," she said at a refugee assistance meeting. "The Vulcans have engineering skills. The Zephyrians are excellent farmers. The Altarians are natural teachers. When we help people use their abilities, everyone benefits." But the real test of the new galaxy came when the first major crisis occurred. A plague had broken out on the mining world of Kepler-12. The disease was spreading quickly and the local medical facilities could not handle it. Under the old Vulcan system, the world would have been quarantined and left to suffer alone. Instead, the quantum communication network allowed doctors from across the galaxy to work together on finding a cure. Medical supplies were shared freely between species. Volunteer medical teams arrived from hundreds of worlds. Dr. Park Hyun-woo watched the response from his laboratory on New Seoul. This is what we hoped for when we started Project Sunrise, he told his research team. Not just the ability to win wars, but the ability to solve problems together. The plague was stopped within weeks. More importantly, the experience had brought different species closer together. Doctors who had never met in person became colleagues and friends through the quantum network. As the first Galactic Council meeting continued, President Kim made an important announcement. Today we are voting on the charter for our new galactic government. But this will not be a government like the Velkan Empire. No single species will rule over others. No central authority will make decisions for distant worlds. He gestured to a display showing the proposed structure. Instead, each world and each species will govern itself. The Galactic Council will exist only to help coordinate cooperation and prevent conflicts. Former Supreme Fleet Commander Thorax stood up to ask a question. President Kim, what happens if some species choose not to join this cooperative? What if they prefer to remain isolated? Then they will be allowed to remain isolated, Kim replied. Freedom includes the freedom to choose solitude, but the quantum communication network will remain available to them if they change their minds. The vote was unanimous. Every species, including the Velkans, agreed to join the new galactic cooperative. But the most moving moment came at the end of the meeting. A young human named Lee Sunny and a young Velkan named Maltara stood up together. They had met at the new integrated university on Haven Station and had become friends despite their species' history. We want to say something to all the adults, Sunny said. You spent thousands of years fighting each other. You built empires and tore them down. You hurt each other and hurt yourselves. Maltara continued. But you also gave us something wonderful. You gave us a galaxy where different species can be friends, where we can learn from each other and help each other. We promise, they said together, that our generation will not repeat your mistakes. We will build on what you started and make something even better. As the meeting ended and representatives prepared to return to their home worlds, Admiral Kang Daeho found himself standing next to former Commander Thorax. Do you think it will work? Thorax asked. This idea of different species cooperating instead of competing. Daeho looked out the great window at the ships in the station's harbor. Vessels from dozens of different species were docked side by side. Their crews were sharing meals and stories. I think, Daeho said slowly, that we have already proven it works. The question is not whether we can cooperate. The question is whether we can continue to choose cooperation over domination. And what do you think the answer is? Thorax asked. Daeho smiled. I think that a year ago we showed the galaxy that humans could topple the strongest empire in one day. Today we have shown that we can build something better to replace it. As the representatives departed, Dr. Park Hyunwoo sent a message through the quantum network to every human in the galaxy. Project Sunrise is complete. The galaxy is free. Now Project Tomorrow begins.